Hi guys, welcome to Multiverse. Today we are going to take a look at my PS4 villains. Basically I made a couple of videos about my PS4 heroes, and now it's the turn of my PS4 villains. So basically this is my Dark Multiverse character. This character went through a lot of changes. It started being a character that was called the Prometheum Knight. It was my main villain or even my main character for a while. At some point, I basically had a bunch of friends who decided to try out the DC Universe Online, so we created a league, an evil league of evil villains, and so we each created our characters. Mine was the Prometheum Knight, and after a long while, I finally changed this character to being the evil Galactus. But then I wanted to have a dark side character. I wanted to have an anti-monitor character, so I even wanted to have a celestial character, which sadly I still don't have. I've settled with the evil Brainiac, I guess. And I wanted multiple characters, but I was trying to have basically I have way too many characters. I have like 50, maybe a bit more than 50 characters, which is, I can tell you, way too much. So in order to try to have as little characters, as few characters as possible, I decided to combine all those characters within one character with multiple armories. So I have my dark side armory, as you can see. I have my evil anti-monitor armory. I'm not using the complete anti-monitor style. Basically, I'm using a mishmash of the anti-monitor style, the Disciple of Parallax style, and even some Brainiac style. Basically, I've recreated more or less what was the Anti-Monitor and the Green Lantern Sinestro War, when he had pretty much a weird mishmash of his own Anti-Monitor armor and the Sinestro look, the Sinestro emblem. But I still kept a Galactus armory. As you can see, we can recreate a pretty darn good version of our friend Galactus. So I decided to keep an armory for Galactus, seeing how it looks all kinds of awesome. I was able to tweak it, refine it as time goes by, but this is pretty much very close to the original look I had for the character when I first turned it into Galactus. And last but not least, I made sort of a Brainiac armory. It's not really what I had in mind. I was hoping to be able to make maybe to recreate maybe one of Marvel's Celestials, but I wasn't able to manage to do that. For a while I was using basically this armory with an alternate look for the Anti-Monitor, but in the end I decided to just turn it into the evil Brainiac with a mishmash of various Brainiac pieces of armor, or even some astral pieces of armor, as you can see with the gloves. And let's give a quick tour of my base for those who may be interested. As you can see, I have a bunch of base items from Apocalypse. Of course, I have the Anti-Monitor portal, which I use for my teleporter. The Orrery of the Multiverse, my favorite base item ever. And as you can see, I have multiple. I have a billion TV screens, of course, and as you can see, I'm using the Brainiac base, and it's perfect when you have some huge base items like the Time Sphere, or even the huge Green Lantern lantern, as you can see. I'm not done decorating, obviously. I still have. I've been spending way too much time lately redecorating all my bases. So as you can see, I'm still in the process of decorating my base, but I'll get there slowly but surely. Usually Sundays, I spend an hour or two redecorating some of my bases. You'll see that I have quite a few bases to redecorate lately. So let's take a look at another character. And next we have the evil Ultraman. Sadly, I'm still missing a few things. I'm missing the Ultra Kryptonian Cape, obviously, and I'm missing the Kryptonite Aura. I'm using the red Kryptonite Aura, but it doesn't contrast well enough with the cape. The green kryptonite aura works a bit better because it does contrast well enough with the red. Here we kind of lose the aura and the red of the cape, and even with the boots and all that. So the green kryptonite aura would work a little bit better because it would contrast with the look of the character a bit more. And here we have pretty much the new 52 version of the character. It's a bit strange when they first sort of changed Superman for the new 52. We couldn't help but say that they had turned him into Ultraman, and that was even more obvious once we actually had the Ultraman character from the new 52. So here, basically using the new 52 Superman style, you can recreate a pretty darn good version of the new 52 Ultraman character. Here I made a somewhat more classic version of Ultraman using the scuba style, basically the scuba chest piece and the scuba pants, as opposed to the new 52 Superman suit that I showed you just before. Obviously it would help if I had the actual Ultraman cape, but what can you do? Although the Ultraman cape is a bit torn up around the edge, which is not really what the classic Ultraman had. Basically, if I could have this cape with the Ultraman emblem in the back, that would be perfect. But sadly, within the context of DC Universe Online, sometimes we do what we can with what we have. Although I could be misremembering, I'm not even sure if the classic Ultraman had the Ultraman emblem in the back. Well, it doesn't matter. Let's have a quick tour of our base for those of you guys who may be interested in seeing that. Sadly, I don't have much with this character yet, but I do have a few cool base items like the Crime Syndicate of America table, which is awesome. The huge coin. And the Ultraman statue. Holy crap, I love this statue. If I didn't restrict myself, I would purchase 100 of that statue and have it all over the place. Sadly, as you can see, I'm using one of the new bases, but sadly I don't have enough base items for this base just yet. But there's a few items. Like I wanted to show you the huge Ultraman statue. This is pretty much the only place in the base where you can have the big statues. And even then, I've tried with some of the other statues, like the big Zeus statue doesn't work. Most of the big statues don't work, but here you can see the Ultraman statue actually does work here. But as you can see, it is a bit cramped, so not the best option. But sadly, it's pretty much the only option. Some of us were hoping that the big room that we have would allow us to have those big statues. But sadly, the room isn't big enough to accommodate that. I also have a character that has the huge Orrery of the Multiverse base item that goes in the League Hall, and sadly, it doesn't fit in this room either. So as big as this room is, it's still not big enough for some of the very, very huge base items. And here we have the EViLLL Owlman. Without the actual Owlman set of gear, this was pretty much as close to Owlman as I was able to get. So I was able to get the official Owlman emblem, but everything else I had to make do with what I had. And it works well enough. I had made a second armory that was completely different than this, and then it hit me that I could actually recreate the EViLLL Owlman from the Brave and the Bold. Basically, for those of you who may not know, there was this awesome series with Batman that was called The Brave and the Bold. And I think for 1 or 2 episodes, I forget, there was this evil version of Batman, which was obviously Owlman. And it was pretty darn close to looking like this. So I finally decided to make my second armory the EViLLL Owlman from the Brave and the Bold. Even though at first, when I made this character, I had more in mind to recreate the EViLLL Owlman from Earth 3. And let's take a quick look around our base. Here you can see I'm using, I forget which base this is, but it's one of the few bases we have early on. And you can see I have a handful of Owlman statues. I love those. Of course, the Owlman signal, or the owl signal, I'm not sure. Sadly, as you can see, I don't have all that much with this character yet either. But I often mention that to people. This Universe Online is a marathon, not a sprint. So in the long run, I should get more base items for this character. We'll see how it goes. So you can see I have quite a few all signal. Playing the Earth 3 DLC, I got a lot of all signal and bat signal. I got a whole bunch of playing missions, but also I got quite a few from the broker. At some point, these signal were very cheap on the broker. I have no idea how much they are right now, but I have more than enough. I don't think I'll ever purchase. I don't think I'll ever need to purchase anymore, but you never know. And here we have the evil Atlantic Master. Although I should probably, I'm going to try to find a better headpiece. But right now this is as close to the evil Ocean Master as I was able to get to. Originally I wanted to have a Ocean Master character and a Black Manta character, but I was ending up with way too many characters. Also, I was toying with the idea of having Black Manta use munitions, but I ended up making Ocean Master and Black Manta the same character, but with different armories. So I became a cheater pumpkin eater. I cheated a bit and had our friend Black Manta use water powers. Doesn't really use water powers. I was toying with the idea of having him use munitions, but doesn't matter. And we had some Black Manta gear that was way too cool not to use. Here I'm using a non-mixture of the Black Manta gear and the scuba suit. And here I think this is pretty much the complete Black Manta set of gear. I was struggling a bit. Basically, Black Manta should have a lot more black than that, but if we put the whole suit black, we kind of use the shiny parts of the suit. So I wanted to keep basically to keep the shiny shine of the suit. So I cheated a bit in the colors. Although I have to admit, I like it much better. I like the helmet a bit better in black. So I might cheat a bit and make it black on this version as well. And for those of you guys who do not want to open time capsules or to purchase Black Manta gear from the broker, there is a tier 5 set of gear that is inspired by Black Manta. So here you can see this is pretty much I don't think I made any changes other than the emblem. So this is pretty much the tier 5 Black Manta set of gear that we have in the Hall of Doom that you can purchase just with Marks of Victory. For the emblem, sadly, unless you got the free Atlantis gift not too long ago, I don't think you can get this emblem. But I have to admit, holy crap, does it look good with the scuba gear. And also black, red, and yellow mixed together always make a really great looking suit. And in this case, I'm using dual wield, as you can see. Probably should have been using dual pistols or something like that. Black Manta does seem to use some sort of technology, which was my idea. I was planning to use dual wield with munitions for this character, but then I was ending up with way too many characters, so I decided to make Ocean Masters and Black Manta the very same character. Just a quick tour of the base. So you can see here, this is the Atlantis base. I'm trying not to change all my bases for the new bases, but you can see the Atlantis base with a few water-based base items. I'm gonna have to redecorate it a bit better, but right now this is what I have. So we have quite a whole bunch of base items, and quite a few DLC with some Atlantis-inspired theme. So it shouldn't be a problem to get a whole bunch of base items for this layer as time goes by. And here we have my Harley Quinn character. I don't think this is all the DC Bombshell Harley Quinn gear. The headpiece is from the punchline, I think. The shoulders, it's the Spindrift shoulders with the Harley Quinn emblem. But a whole bunch of that gear is the DC Bombshell Harley Quinn gear that you can purchase from the marketplace. I'm trying to make a classic Harley Quinn look, but it's very difficult. There's no styles that really allows us to do that. This is about as close as I was able to get, but it's not exactly Harley Quinn, but it's as close as I was able to get. I do have the actual Harley Quinn mask, but you have to be level 30 to be able to use it, and this character is not. Or at least the mask I have needs to be requires to be level 30. So I'm gonna have to wait at least a bit before I can have the official Harley Quinn mask with this character. This is the bunker lair. Nothing really worth showing, but let's have a quick tour for those who may be curious. Obviously, you can see in the back piece I'm using the bazooka from the anniversary event from the Joker style. So obviously this character is still a work in progress in terms of not just the character itself, but the base also. I still have quite a way to go to be able to customize the look of the character and customize the look of the base as well. And next we have my evil Manic Mad Jack character. And what Tico just a minute ago was being all crazy, but I guess he settled down a bit. I basically wanted to have a Joker character, but also I wanted to have a character that was using I had my Magneto character that was using the telekinetic powers from the mental power. I wanted to have a character that was using the illusion powers, and I created a sort of Joker type character. Oh, there's a bit of clipping with theirs. I created a type of Joker type character that was using mental powers. It made some sort of sense that a crazy guy would have mental powers, and sort of inspired his look on the Joker. I guess you could say it's a non-mixture of Joker and Green Goblins in a bit, but not really. And I call the character Manic Mad Jack just to thinking Jack in the Box or something like that. But then Halloween came around and I realized we had a pretty awesome pumpkin headpiece. So it could be as much a Jack in the Box character as a Jack-o'-lantern character. You decide. And I wanted also to have, at the time I didn't have characters using wings, so I wanted to have at least one character using wings. And I really loved the small tech wings, so I decided to use those. And then of course what had to happen happened. I made a third armory, because I wanted to have at least one armory and one loadout that was using the gag gloves. For my lair, I don't think there's that much to show around, but let's show it anyway. Basically, any item that I would get that was sort of Joker inspired, I would try to send here. Like you can see some of the base items, especially this one. Like, I know that this is supposed to be from Mixuspidalic, but I thought it was quite working well with the theme of the Joker. And of course, all the Playhouse base items pretty much end up here. I got a whole bunch of pumpkins, as you can see. Although I was a bit of a slacker, I probably could have had a lot more this year, but there's always next year, I suppose. And of course, there's one of my favorite base item ever, the Arkham Asylum frame. I love this frame. Next year I should try to purchase at least a few more. But basically whatever tables I got pretty much ended up here, or whatever Playhouse base items. And of course a whole bunch of bats, because why not? I don't think I had my Harley Quinn character at the time. Otherwise I probably would have given this poster to my Harley Quinn character. But maybe I did, and I just decided to spread it around. I forget. So again, some Playhouse base items. I have a few Riddler base items. Doesn't really make sense in the context that the Riddler and the Joker were pretty much enemies, especially in the DLC Riddle with Crime. And of course, you can see those investigations. I got a billion of them. I'm exaggerating a bit, but you can see I have quite a bunch of them. I'm not sure why I gave a T-Cool to this character. There must be a reason that I forgot. And of course, the Robin cap, well, I won't say why in case you guys didn't read the comic, so... And here we have the evil Black Lantern Batman. I was struggling a bit. I had no idea which... I wanted to make a Black Lantern for a long time. And then when they finally gave us a Black Lantern set of gear, I thought that, okay, tonight's the night. We're creating a Black Lantern. And I'm not sure why I made it Batman. There has to be a reason. I just forget what it is. I toyed with the idea of making... there's a whole bunch of... version of Black Lantern I could have made. I could have made Superman, The Flash, a whole bunch of... there's so many I could have tried to make. And in the end I decided, well, let's go with the Batman. And I was able to recreate something fairly close to the look that the character had in the Blackest Night miniseries. And then I went and made something that looks nothing like any version of a Batman in the Blackest Night miniseries. Or any comic for that matter. This armor pretty much started, I was basically doing a cross between Batman and more or less the theme that most Black Lantern had at the time. And I changing one piece and changing another piece, and from changes to changes, this is pretty much what I ended up with right now. Also, having access to the future Batman set of gear with this character made quite a difference. I don't have that much in this base, but there might be one base item or two that people would like to see, like the big Black Lantern emblem. This I forget where I got that, but I got a few of that. I'm even using one for my teleporter. Obviously the Arkham Asylum portrait, all kinds of awesome. This is one of the posters from the BVS swag bag. Of course, the bat signal. This one cannot be turned on. That's so sad. So it has the Black Lantern emblem and the Batman emblem, obviously. So you can see what I did with the black tendrils. Kind of neat, I think. I toyed with the idea of doing that also on the armory, but on the armory I found that annoying somehow. So you have the bat signal that can be activated. Sadly, as you can see, I don't have all that much, but again, a lot of those bases are a work in progress. So as you can see, basically there's one or two swag bag that I purchased that I split amongst a whole bunch of my characters. And that's pretty much it for my evil Black Lantern Batman. And next we have my evil Yellow Lantern Batman. Although I'm not too certain about this look. This character changed a lot. Basically, whenever we got a new set of gear that was sort of inspired by Batman, this character would go through a big transformation. And also, once we got the new materials and the new auras for the evil Yellow Lantern power, again, the character transformed into something else. This here is pretty much a mishmash of some Yellow Lantern look, obviously the Yellow Lantern emblem, some Batman gear, and of course the Sinister material and the Sinister aura. And I remember at some point once we got the Batman Beyond set of gear, I knew that I had to make an armory using the Batman Beyond wings. Originally I was just using the Batman Beyond head and wings, and the rest was pretty much traditional Yellow Lantern gear. But then we got the Speed Metal set of gear, and I knew I had to use it. And this here was a bit of a happy accident. Basically, I ended up making a Yellow Lantern Batman Beyond without really meaning to. And this look evolved quite a bit. It started as basically the Alan Scott set of gear with just the headpiece from the Dark Spectre set of gear. And it became a non-mixture of the Dark Spectre, the Alan Scott set of gear, and the Future Batman set of gear, and probably something else I forget. And it ended up with a pretty neat looking look. And obviously I'm using the Sinister material and the Sinister aura, obviously. And I'm not sure if I have anything worth showing, but why not? Oh, here we have our old friend Ranks. Love this little base item. So as you can see, I got a whole bunch of base items spread throughout a lot of bases. The Sinistro emblem. Love this emblem. So you're gonna have a mixture of some Batman gear, some Sinistro base item when I can. Obviously the bat signal, very important. Again, I'm sure as I said before, I got a whole bunch of Batman bat signal. The huge lantern. Like that big lantern in the bases we used to have. There isn't that many places where you can actually put it. Like here, you can see those beams pretty much stop us from putting it up here. So I guess I could have put it where the bat signal is, but I decided to put it here instead. So there's not that much room for that big lantern, but oh well. So I got a few bat computers. So like most of my characters, the character and the base are a work in progress. And next we have the evil Superboy Prime. As you can see, I'm still using the Eyes of the Dusk. Basically, I'm not done using the Eyes of the Dusk to be able to get the artifacts that we can get with it. But once I manage to get the artifacts, I'm not going to use the eyes anymore. So we can make a pretty darn classic version of our friend Superboy, as you can see. Sadly, we have to use the Stalwart Defender chest to get a bigger emblem. If we could get a slimline chest that allows us to get a bigger emblem, that's probably what I would use. But sadly, we use what we can. Here you can see I'm still using the original House of EViLL cape. Even though it looks a bit like plastic, we can change the color of the emblem, so that's why I'm still using it. Here we have pretty much the Superboy Prime version from the Green Lantern Sinestro Corps War. I'm not going to talk too long about this character because I've made a video about Superboy Prime not too long ago. If you want to have more details about this character, you could look up that video in my videos. But as you can see, using the Disciple of Parallax and some Anti-Monitor set of gear and even some House of EViLL set of gear, we can create a pretty darn good Superboy Prime character. Here we have the Superboy Prime from Countdown to Final Crisis. It's a pretty cool looking look actually. The Superman emblem looks great in pretty much any colors, and the black and white gives some nice contrast. And again, the Superman emblem, you can put it white, red, yellow, orange, any color, and it still looks pretty iconic and pretty awesome. And here we have another version of Superboy Prime, but this version is pretty much what we had in Infinite Crisis. And again, it's pretty much a mixture of the Anti-Monitor style and the House of EViLL style. Although here you can see we're using the House of EViLL 2019 for the cape. I thought it kind of worked with this look for the character. Sadly, I'm not sure if it's because of the TV show or if they had already done so in the comics. But basically, with the TV show, they pretty much split the character of Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash, into two different characters. Actually, almost three. They've made him basically Reverse Flash, obviously the man in the yellow suit who sadly killed, spoiler alert, killed Barry Allen's mother in season 1 of The Flash. And then they made a completely new character called Zoom, which didn't really look like that. This is more pretty much almost a cross between Zoom and the Black Racer, or the Black Flash, I should say. But then they added the character Zoom to the TV show. This doesn't really look like Zoom. This is a sort of mixture between Zoom and the Black Flash. But basically, they made Professor Zoom two distinct characters. They made him the Reverse Flash in the TV show, and then they had another character called Zoom in the second season of the TV show. Although there was a Zoom character before, basically the Reverse Flash was the original Reverse Flash, or it's the original Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash, and then he was sort of killed at some point. And then in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000, they created a new version which was only called Zoom. So that's pretty much when they started splitting the character into two distinct characters. And in the TV show, they took that one step further. So it's a bit convoluted, just to say the least. But here I made pretty much a mixture of the Black Flash and the evil Zoom we saw in the TV show. And I thought the look was pretty darn good. And here I made a pretty good version of Johnny Quick. Basically, we have a Johnny Quick set of gear in DC Universe Online in the Earth 3 DLC. So it's not very difficult to recreate our friend Johnny Quick. And I'm using the, what we could call, I guess, the enhanced version of the headpiece. There's another headpiece that you can use that has the same texture as the suit. But I don't like that headpiece very much, so I much prefer to use this one. And here we pretty much have the Red Death set of gear, but with a few tweaks here and there. Like I'm not using the Red Death belt, but the speed. Here I made a Red Death version, although I made a few tweaks here and there. I'm not using the Red Death shoulders, obviously, and the belt. The belt I'm using the Speed Force Spectrum. The shoulders, the spin drift, that allows me to have the Red Death emblem on them. And of course, the headpiece is sort of the enhanced version of the Johnny Quick headpiece. I don't like the Red Death headpiece very much. So I was looking for an alternative and realized that the perfect alternative was the enhanced version of the Johnny Quick headpiece, if it makes sense. It's not really that because there is actually an enhanced version, but this is the Swift Runner headpiece, which is an alternate version of the Johnny Quick headpiece, basically. And I forgot to mention, if you're wondering how I can have a Reverse Flash that is so brightly yellow, and even the red. Basically, I'm using the sinister material, and I'm using basically I'm using the sinister material for the red parts, and I'm using the fierce material for the come on. I'm using the sinister material for the yellow parts and the fierce material for the red parts. So that's why I can have a yellow that is so bright. And even for the boots, sadly the flash boots have a sort of tint in them that makes them darker, no matter what color you put them, unless you use black maybe. But here, with the first material, it looks awesome. So the first material and the sinister material make a pretty awesome reverse flash. And I guess I'll show around my base a bit. There's a few items of note. Basically, our friend, obviously Professor Zoom, the reverse flash must have is the time sphere, which we even saw in the first season of the Flash. Although they made it much smaller, but it still was the same idea. Of course, the cosmic treadmill. They did include it in the show, although they don't use it in the show just yet the same way they did in the comics. But I wouldn't be surprised if in a few seasons if they start using it to travel through time. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So again, you can see I'm using the Brainiac base. Although I don't have that many base items with this character just yet. So I hope they're going to give us the option to be able to upgrade our bases. Otherwise, I'm going to end up using the Brainiac base and the Atlantis base for a lot of characters. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And next we have a character that I called the Phoenix 5. Basically the idea was I wanted to have a character that uses fire with the fire aura. So I thought, let's make it. At first I thought I was going to make it Dark Phoenix. But I decided against that. Then I thought, let's try to make it the Phoenix 5. My idea was that each armory could be a different version of the Phoenix. If I recall, the Phoenix 5 were Cyclops, Colossus, Emma Frost, Namor the Submariner, and I forget who the fifth one was. But sadly, I'll show you. Basically, to recreate Cyclops, it works well enough. You can recreate a pretty darn good version of Cyclops from the Phoenix 5. And obviously, you can have the Cyclops I-Beam, obviously. In addition, a whole bunch of fire powers to basically mimic being the Phoenix. And for some reason, my armories seems to be glitching, so you're not seeing my characters, but I'm going to use it anyway. So basically my idea was to have an armory for each version of the Phoenix 5. And here you can see a not too bad version of Colossus, although I wish I could use the bigger body. But that's, I guess, the biggest flaw in my idea at first, is that sadly you cannot change the body size. So I have to use the same body size for all my armories. And here we kind of can tell that it is a Colossus. And it doesn't look exactly like the version from the Phoenix 5, but it's close enough that you understand that it is Colossus, and you understand that it is Colossus from the Phoenix 5. But I don't like it as much as I thought I would. And also the biggest problem I have is that I'm struggling with coming up with other armories. So if you guys have any ideas or suggestions for a fire-based evil villain, please give me those suggestions in the comment section down below, and odds are I will turn this character into one of those suggestions. I toyed with maybe making it Atomic Skull, but he's not using atomic powers, and I don't want to switch powers. I want him to use fire. The only fire-based villain I can think of in the DC universe is the evil version of Sunboy from the Legion of Supervillains. I think he's Sun Emperor or something like that. I didn't like that too much, so I'm trying to come up with a better version for an evil fire-based character. At the end of the day, odds are I'll just make something up. I'm not sure. And here we have the evil Magneto First Class. Basically, this was my character for a long time, and at some point I changed it into the multiverse. But then after a while, I kind of missed having a Magneto character, so I recreated our friend Magneto, but this time as an evil villain. My first main character was the Phantom. If you guys saw my previous videos, you know about that already, but just in case you didn't watch those. My first main character was the Phantom that I used for about a year and a half when I played DC Universe Online. And I have to admit, I was struggling a bit with my friend the Phantom. Using gadget powers was challenging to say the least. But then when I created my Magneto character with mental powers, holy crap, it became a whole new ball game. That's when I truly understood how to play this universe online, and also the I knew how to use the mental powers so much more efficiently than my gadget powers, so much so that basically for like the Central City bounties, I was able to solo the Central City bounties with my Magneto character once I was level combat rating 70. And with my Phantom character, I think I had to be combat rating 85 or 90 before I was able to solo the Central City bounty characters. And even then, I think half of them I still couldn't solo them. So basically, using my mental powers, I was either much more powerful, or the power was much more powerful, or I just knew how to use the power so much better than Gadget. I'm not sure how to properly explain it, but when I started using mental powers, this universe became a whole new game, and that's when I started, I guess, mastering how to play as a controller. I guess one thing that really helped was that mental powers had a lot of power that gave my character extra survivability. Like basically, there was a few shields that the power had. Well, also at the time I was using flying, we didn't have skimming. The ability to fly was also a big plus compared to using an acrobat. So when I first created my first Magneto First Class, it was a game changer, literally, and it allowed me to enjoy this universe online on a whole new level that I wasn't able to with my Phantom character. And of course, I had to make a classic Magneto armory. As you can see, we can recreate a pretty darn good version of our friend Magneto in this universe online. I'm using mental powers. For those of you who don't know, if you're a fairly new player, eons ago, mental was separated in two different branches. There was the illusion branch, and there was the telekinetic branch. And basically, using telekinetic was how I was able to fake playing a Magneto character. With telekinesis and mass levitation and stuff like that, it really felt like I was Magneto in the DC universe. So at some point, it just became the mental power, and as you level up your character, you gain pretty much specific power at each level. But eons ago, we had two separate branches, and you could choose from one branch or the other. So in the case of Magneto, I only took powers from the telekinetic branch, and I only used powers that would allow me to pretty much recreate the powers of our friend Magneto. And why Magneto First Class? I was playing a hero character, and I was looking for a character that was using mental powers. The obvious choice would have been Charles Xavier or maybe Jean Grey, but for some reason I decided to go with Magneto. And in the comics, at some point, Magneto was a good guy, or even in First Class. The reason why I went with First Class is that basically when First Class starts, Magneto is not really a bad guy. He hunts down evil Nazis. He becomes friends with Charles Xavier, and it's only towards the end of the film that he turns and become not quite a bad guy yet, but you can see he's on his way to get there. So using Magneto First Class as a hero character made some sort of sense in my mind at the time. And also the look you're seeing right now is a look that I used for a long time. And one of the benefits that I didn't expect at the time was that when people would see me with that look, they thought that I was like a level 3 player that was fresh off the Brainiac ship. So they would attack me, and at some point I had the full vengeance gear, which was the top PvP gear at the time. So I had the top PvP gear, so when people would jump me thinking that I was a level 3 character, I would beat the snot out of them. Sometimes also what I would do is that eons ago, you could create a character on the PvP server. So on the PvP server, we had level 3, level 4, any level of characters. And there's some high-level players who would go into low-level zone to hunt down low-level characters. So what I would do is that I would go in low-level zones, and I would hunt down those who were hunting down the low-level characters. And dressed the way I was, people thought I was a low-level character, so they would try to attack me, and then I would beat the snot out of them. It was quite fun at the time, and I did that for at least a whole summer, maybe a bit more. It was a lot of fun. But then at some point, I didn't play. They made a whole bunch of changes to PvP, so it wasn't really possible to do that anymore. And next, we have my evil Brainiac 11 character. I wanted to have at least one more female character in my rosters, and also I wanted to have a Brainiac character. So I decided, okay, let's mix both. Let's have a Brainiac character that is a female Brainiac. I understand that there is a female Brainiac, as she's called Indigo or something like that, but here I went with an actual female Brainiac instead of recreating Indigo. And Brainiac 11, I don't know, it made some sort of sense. There's the character 11, I guess, in Stranger Things that kind of inspired me, that name a bit. So here you can see my other armory. Also, I wanted an excuse to use exotic skins like the glowing skin and stuff like that. And also when I got the Shade, the Changing Man emblem, at first I thought it was a Brainiac emblem because it pretty much looks like the Brainiac emblem. So basically a whole bunch of happy accidents made this character happen. I wanted to have a female character, I wanted to have a Brainiac character, and I wanted to use the Shade, the Changing Man emblem for a Brainiac character. So all that came together with this Brainiac 11 character. And let's go around our base a bit. As you can see, obviously I'm using the Brainiac base, but with this character I have a whole bunch of Brainiac base items. So if you ever wanted to recreate a pretty awesome looking base, I guess this could be a first step. I don't think I have all my items placed just yet. As you guys saw, I have a whole bunch of bases, and I have a lot of bases to redecorate. So it's a work in progress. And sadly, there seems to be an issue with the emblems in the bases right now. They seem to change on their own. It's something that didn't happen just yet with the new bases, but we had a lot of players this weekend. I believe when we have a lot of players, the game is struggling a bit, and the emblems in the bases are struggling a bit. As you can see, I cannot change the emblem and save. It happens. So I have a whole bunch of Brainiac base items, as you can see, and I don't think I've used them all, but maybe I did. And also I've used some base items to be able to cover my some of my amenities or my generator or my mainframe, as you saw, or even my vendor. Don't have much here yet. I guess I'm going to need something for here. We'll see. I should probably get a Crime Syndicate table, even though Brainiac wasn't really in the Crime Syndicate. Actually, he was in the Earth 2 graphic novel. So again, as you can see, I've covered my crafting station. I've covered my crafting vendor, my respec station. So I love those big mainframes, those big Brainiac mainframes. It allows me to cover some of the base amenities that I don't like too much. Like here you can see I've covered my mailbox, or even my my dispenser with the white mods or the sidekicks and all that. And you can still use it, as you can see. Oh, I didn't. Let's take that dive. Lots of uber lag right now, it seems. And of course, as you can see, I'm using the Anti-Monitor Skull and Portal to cover my teleporter, and I have a nicer looking teleporter, if you ask me. And as an added bonus, let's take a look at our evil villain base, if you will. Obviously, there's the awesome Throne of Bone here. Love this throne. And as you can see for my villains, I'm using the Undersea base. And of course, I have a whole bunch of Orrery of the Multiverse for the EViLLL. I have a whole bunch of statues that I didn't really know what to do with yet. And I have a whole bunch of Ultraman statues. I love that statue. I got a whole bunch either playing the Earth 3 DLC, or when I would see one for cheap on a broker, I would purchase it. And I have a whole bunch of portrait like this one. So you're going to see that portrait quite a lot in the EViLLL. Some Earth 3 base items. Decisions, left or right. I will come back. So again, obviously, a whole bunch of other portraits. Here I have obviously a Cosmic Treadmill. Every evil villain lair needs at least one. And here again I have a few Orrery of the Multiverse. And some training facilities. I guess I need a bit more. And those guys in the prison always crack me up. I always wonder, is it random? Does it depend on what content is being run? It's probably just random. I'm trying to find meaning probably where there's none. But you can see NPCs from the various DLCs. And in the back you can see some, I think it's a Paradox Tyrant. And here I have basically what I would call the Apocalypse section. I have a whole bunch of base items from Apocalypse. I spent way too much time playing the broker and purchasing those items. Often you guys wonder why I don't have billions and billions of dollars. That's why. Basically, as soon as I earn enough cash to be able to purchase something cool, I buy it. So here I wanted to purchase a whole bunch of Apocalypse base items. So I would farm and farm and farm, and as soon as I could, I would purchase one, two, half a dozen. Although some of those were pretty pricey, like this one with the Darkseid's face was pretty expensive. Although this one was a bit expensive too. So sometimes those base items would be really expensive, so I wouldn't buy too many. But I would try to purchase at least a few when the prices were a bit lower. But it was hard to tell. Sometimes the prices would go down a bit, and then it would shoot back up. So it was a roller coaster, literally. Obviously, another time sphere. And here I fell in love with those little industrial crane. So at some point I kept on either getting some or buying some from the broker. some more Earth 3 coins. And I guess here we're getting into somewhat the lantern section, I suppose. Although we have a few Harley Quinn posters. And I have a whole bunch of lantern emblems. Again, basically whenever I would see some lantern emblems for cheap on the broker, I would purchase them. I got a few from the Valentine seasonal. And of course the huge lantern. And I even have a few ranks, as you can see. But the Crime Syndicate table, holy crap, I really enjoyed those. Again, I think I purchased some from the broker and probably some from the Earth 3 vendor, I forget. I need some better chairs though. And again, as you can see, I got a few All-Man signal. And the statues, I love the statues. The Ultraman statues, the All-Man statues, the Superwoman statue. These are awesome. And some more Orrery of the Multiverse, obviously. So this is pretty much my EViLLL lair. Also, I got a few drapes, like tide hanging, decorating drapes or something like that. Normally these would show an emblem. Sadly, in the EViLLL, you cannot set an emblem, so there's no emblem for those drapes. So sadly, if you ever get some of those drapes, don't give them to your EViLLL for nothing. It doesn't work. You don't get an emblem here. It's sad, but it happens. Got the Lex Luthor poster from BVS. And a bunch of other stuff. I didn't get that many Savage base items. I guess I didn't purchase that many from the broker, or I didn't get that many from playing the game. Either way. So I have a few, as you can see, but not that many. Probably should have more. So this is pretty much it for all my villain characters. And my evil villain lair. Or my evil villain EViLLL, I should say. Because you've seen a whole bunch of my lairs. I will probably try to purchase more Ultraman or All-Man and Superwoman statues. I guess I'll have to give it some thoughts. So that is pretty much it for my evil villains. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask so in the comment section down below, and I'll see what I can do about answering your questions. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.